The snow fell in thick muffling sheets across the pine-covered backroads of northern Maine. It was the kind of storm that seemed to erase the world, one flake at a time, dimming headlights, swallowing sound, and sealing off the forest like a tomb. Far from town, on a forgotten logging trail, an old truck idled beneath a canopy of ice-laden branches. Smoke curled from the engine. The vehicle was skewed off the road, its tires spinning uselessly in a drift, steam rising from beneath the crumpled hood. The snow around it, stained black from oil and exhaust. But it was the inside of the truck that told the real story. 3 law enforcement officers, Deputy Laura Miles, Sergeant Hank Tolliver, and Officer Jamie Brooks, were bound and gagged, their wrists tied with coarse rope behind their backs. Jamie was slumped motionless in the back seat, his head leaning at an unnatural angle against the window. Laura blinked through half-conscious eyes, her lips split, blood matting her dark hair. Tolliver stirred occasionally, groaning behind a cloth gag, but his movements growing weaker with each passing minute. And the truck? It was catching fire. Flames licked at the dashboard. The insulation had already begun to melt. Smoke curled thick and gray beneath the roof of the cab. Heat warped the windows. The storm outside kept most of the fire at bay, for now. But inside the cabin, time was a fuse, burning toward an inevitable end. They had been ambushed, a sting operation gone sideways, a decoy meeting with a meth dealer turned trap. The suspects had stripped the officers of their radios, their weapons, tied them up, and left them for dead in the middle of nowhere. The snowstorm, the remoteness of the road, the confiscated gear, it was a perfect plan. No one knew where they were. No one, except the dog. They'd started calling him Bear, almost as a joke. He was broad-shouldered, hunched like he carried weight from another life, and bore the kind of scars that made people wonder, without asking. He had limped into the Penobscot County Precinct yard nearly 2 years ago, during a January blizzard. No tag, no collar. His ears were torn, his fur patchy with old burns and bite marks. But his eyes, they were steady, watchful. It was Tolliver who took to him first. "Look at him," he'd said to the rookies. "A mutt like that doesn't survive a Maine winter, unless he's smarter than half the folks in town." He tossed Bear a piece of beef jerky and said, "Guess you're one of us now." And from that day forward, Bear never left the grounds. Not a certified K9, not officially part of the team. Just always there, always watching, sitting quietly behind the garage or under the front steps during shift changes. He patrolled the lot at night like it was his post. He learned the sounds of each cruiser engine, the scent of every deputy. No one trained him, no one told him to stay. He just stayed. And now he was the only one who knew they were missing. That night, Bear had been curled up on an old sleeping pad in the maintenance shed when he suddenly snapped awake. His ears twitched. The air carried something that didn't belong, something that made his hackles rise. He stood, sniffed the wind, and began to pace. No barking, no howling, just a low growl deep in his chest. Then he bolted. He slipped through the cracked garage door into the cold, snow hitting him like a wall, but Bear didn't hesitate. He was already tracking the scent. He could smell Laura, her coat, her hair, Tolliver's leather gloves, Jamie's cologne, and something else. Something bitter. Gasoline, blood. Instinct took over. He ran through knee-deep snow. Bear pushed on, miles into the forest, past hollowed logging cabins and creeks frozen solid. His paws bled where the ice cracked beneath them. The cold cut through his ribs, but he didn't slow. He didn't stop. When he finally found the truck, the smell hit him first. Rubber, metal, flame. He bounded into the clearing and barked. A single sharp note, ears back, muscles tight. The vehicle was already glowing orange around the wheel wells. Smoke billowed inside the cab. Bear launched himself onto the hood, claws scrabbling against the slush-coated metal. Through the side window, he saw Laura's eyes, wide now, flickering with desperate hope. She screamed behind the gag, but it only came out muffled. Bear dropped to the snow. and circled the vehicle, barking furiously, trying every door handle with his teeth. Nothing budged. The heat had warped the frames. He leapt again, this time at the passenger side window, biting at the rubber seal. His teeth tore the trim away in strips. The flame inside was creeping faster now, crawling toward the back seat where Jamie was still unconscious. Bear jumped back down, braced himself in the snow, and rammed the window with his shoulder. Once, twice. Crack. A third time, smash. Glass exploded outward, and Bear dove into the cabin. Smoke choked him. The heat seared his paw pads. But he pushed through it. He lunged toward Laura, biting and pulling at the ropes binding her wrists. It took 3 tries, his teeth slipping on the soaked cord, but finally, snap. She ripped off the gag, coughing violently. Her fingers scrambled at the door handle. "It's stuck!" she cried. Bear lunged again, slamming his weight into the door alongside her. Bang, bang, thunk! It opened just enough. Laura spilled out into the snow, gasping, rolling away from the heat. Bear followed, singed, wheezing, but turned back toward the truck. He wasn't done. Tolliver was next. Bear climbed across the now empty driver's seat and into the cabin, smoke wrapping around him like a living thing. Flames had begun to drip from the dashboard like molten wax. Tolliver's seatbelt buckle glowed orange. He barked once, then went to work. The gag came off first, teeth slicing through the cloth just enough for Tolliver to spit it out. "Bear, go, get out of here," the sergeant rasped, blinking through the smoke. But the dog didn't budge. Instead, he bit into the rope binding Tolliver's hands and began pulling, jaw working like a vice. "God, you stubborn mutt," Tolliver choked. "You should have run." The rope gave way. Bear pushed at the door with his whole body. Tolliver kicked from the inside. It groaned, then burst open, spilling both of them into the snow. Laura was already crawling back, coughing. She grabbed Tolliver by the coat and dragged him farther away from the truck. Flames were now licking up the front seats. The back window popped with a hiss of fire and steam. "Jamie," she cried. "He's still in there." Tolliver rolled over, blood seeping from his temple. "No, it's too late. Laura, no!" But Bear had already turned back. They lifted Bear onto a stretcher. One of the medics tried to cover him with foil, but Tolliver barked. "No, use my coat." He took off his parka and laid it gently over Bear's shaking body. "Treat him like one of ours," he said. "Because he is." 2 weeks later, the hospital issued updates daily. Jamie had a concussion, burns on his arms, and smoke inhalation. But he'd make a full recovery. Laura had a fractured rib and second-degree burns on her hands. Tolliver had stitches in his scalp and a cracked collarbone. But Bear had fought harder than all of them. Third-degree burns, damaged lungs, torn ligaments in one leg. He had stopped breathing twice on the table. They'd prepped the department for the worst. But Bear kept fighting. The town held its breath. And then, on the 16th day, he opened his eyes. The day Bear came home, the entire town of Millinocket turned out. They lined the streets despite the snow, waving flags, holding signs. Children stood on tiptoe trying to glimpse him. Reporters from Portland and even Boston came to film. Bear rode in the front seat of a patrol car, nestled in blankets, his badge-shaped collar glinting in the sun. When they pulled up to the station, he barked softly, just once. The mayor was waiting on the steps with a silver medal, for extraordinary bravery, for loyalty beyond duty, and for saving 3 lives at great personal cost. "We honor Officer Bear." Cheers erupted. But the dog just sat quietly, tail brushing the steps, eyes fixed on Tolliver. The sergeant knelt down. "Hey, old boy," he whispered. "We're all still breathing because of you." Laura stood beside him, Jamie now walking on a cane. Laid something small in Bear's blanket. A photo of the 3 of them with Bear in the center, from the summer BBQ last July. "We were a team then," Jamie said, "and we still are." Bear thumped his tail. Today, Bear doesn't run as fast as he used to. The burns took most of the fur from his left side. His right paw twists slightly when he walks. But he still patrols the precinct every morning, still naps under the front desk, and still perks up when the radios crackle. Visitors sometimes ask who the statue out front is for, the one of the big scarred German shepherd, standing proud against the wind. Locals just smile. That's Bear, they say. The dog who didn't leave. The one who brought them home.